Hey there, lovely people. It's Kat from Elevate for Self Love, and I'm coming to you today to speak about abusive people and their disordered thinking. So, I've been reading a book, Why Does He Do That, by Lundy Bancroft. And it's an interesting book. It's about abusive men. It's very, very intense to read this book. I do see a lot of people that I have dated in this book, and it's scary because it makes me realize and know that I have a pattern of picking people who are abusive and have a certain mindset. And that's also because of the way I grew up. And I recognize that as well. So I've been taking a long break now from dating because I can understand that I am not picking people that are safe. And, safety is a big deal. Like, I never realized it, but like the actual idea of emotional safety with another human being in like a relationship is actually pretty big deal. And I never thought about it until my last serious relationship, which ended last year. I didn't feel safe. Like, I felt insecure because of things that he would do or say, and that translates into not feeling safe. Like, you have this feeling of like, I don't feel safe. I don't know why. I wasn't afraid he was going to hurt me. So I wasn't afraid that my ex-boyfriend was going to hurt me, but I still felt unsafe. And so what I could kind of understand now is that, emotionally, humans want to feel safe and they want to feel protected and loved in a relationship. So it's like an idea of emotional safety. It's not an idea of like physical safety, but I had never thought about it before. I had never really thought like, oh, I need to feel safe in a relationship. And so I began to think about, okay, what do I need in a relationship? And one of the things is emotional safety. I need consistency because my last serious relationship wound up being very inconsistent, and that's not healthy. Um, I need someone who's reliable, compatible in goals and the things that we want in life. So I began to make a list of all the things that I wanted to find. But this idea of like emotional safety is important to remember because a lot of times when you're with abusive partners, you just don't feel safe. It's like an undercurrent, a feeling of like the ground you're walking on is not stable. Things are not secure. And that doesn't mean that you're insecure. And I hate all these like websites that'll be like, you're insecure attachment or whatever. The truth is, if you're with someone who acts very avoidant and acts like a narcissist or acts like a selfish, entitled, whatever, you're going to feel insecure. If they keep breaking up with you, like my ex-boyfriend would break up when he would get mad. And then he was like, why are you insecure? It's kind of logical. If you're going to break up with someone all the time and they don't know that they have any kind of security with you, they're going to be insecure. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel secure. They can't because you keep leaving and you keep changing things, the dynamic, and taking away the relationship entirely. So it doesn't mean you're insecure. It just means that that person's actions have caused a reaction in you, and that reaction might be insecurity, but that doesn't mean you're insecure. There's like so many, I feel like so many women are like out there blaming themselves. Meanwhile, it's what the guy did. Like, you're just reacting to what the circumstance is and what this person did. It's not your fault. It's not because you have a certain attachment style and that's what I mean, it's possible. Like, if you're an anxious, insecure attachment style, you have to fix that. But for myself, like, I know I've been a secure attacher in other relationships. So the fact that I could securely attach in other relationships, and I had been securely attached in this past relationship as well for a period of time, leads me to believe that it's not my attachment style that's the issue. It's that this person was triggering insecurities and, and attachment issues, but it was because of what they were doing to me. It was a circumstance. It wasn't like spontaneously I'm an anxious attacher. Anxious attachers are people who, like call like in general, like would just constantly call and constantly text or whatever, like with no prior you know, conflict or something prompting that. And that wasn't how I was. I wouldn't just get insecure over nothing. It was like actually things had happened that legitimately I could feel that way. That being said, now I look back and say, that was really unhealthy for me to stay in that situation. I should have left a lot sooner. But you learn after you go through things. You live and you learn. That's what life is. It's all like a long learning journey that we just keep going on. And at this point, I've learned a certain amount about abusive people. And from reading this book by Lundy Bancroft, it's interesting because they all have this disordered thinking. And I get it because I've seen this in action. Like I've seen this in real life. I've dated these guys like so many times, and they are entitled and they are selfish and they like really think they're right. They really think they're right, but they're not right. They've just grown up with this idea that like the way that they are relating is okay, and it could have been they learned this from their parents. It could have been they learned this just from friends or you know their environment growing up. But it is, um, Bancroft talks about it in the book that they learn this from their environment growing up, so it's something that's ingrained in them. So they are learning that it's okay to treat people this way. And interestingly, so Bancroft talks about they have an idea of like some things are not okay. Like they have their own like kind of personalized um more like ethical system. Like so they might think like, oh wow, like what that guy did is like way out of line. Like that's terrible. But like then they do something bad that we might think is bad. And they're like, no, that's okay because she made me do it. If she didn't do this, I wouldn't have had to do that. So they're kind of like come from this place of like justification, entitlement. And it's interesting that they have this it's like a cognitive distortion. It's distorted thinking, it's distorted reality, but they actually believe it. And so does that mean that they're bad people? They're doing bad things maybe, but do they know that they're bad? I mean, some of them might, but some of them don't. They just think in their own mind it's okay to disrespect this person, but I would never disrespect my mother. Like that was actually in the book that they had like certain things that they would never do to like their mother, but they would do it to other women. So it's like somehow their value systems, their ethics, their integrity, everything got screwed up somewhere along the line. And this is how now they now perceive um, their behavior to be okay. Whereas we might think abusive behavior that they're doing is not okay. So there's no way to really fix that. I guess, in the book they say that certain therapies, I guess they can, uh, some of them can get better. I don't know. I found that people are who they are, and they just like you have to kind of accept them for who they are. They're not probably going to change. Well, you might want them to change, but most likely it's not happening. And for me personally, I put in a lot of time trying to help and fix certain people that were, let's say abusive to me in the past few years. And it was a mistake. So I wouldn't do that again. I would definitely leave and I would just take care of myself. Like that's the whole thing about codependency, right? Like we have to start taking care of ourselves. It's like we're so worried about everybody else. We're trying to help everybody else. And you know, we really need to just take care of ourselves. It's our own side of the street that we need to keep clean. And if a guy is, abusive, or if he's not committing, or he's just, just not acting right, there's nothing we can do. All we can do is remove ourselves and then go on to the next guy instead of trying so hard to get the message across, because like I've now figured out, not everybody can hear the message the same way, right? Like everybody's kind of operating from a different place, and not everybody can understand. Even if you're speaking English on an emotional level, they may not have the ability to understand what you're saying or the point you're making, or to understand why you're hurt. Or like I said, they could have cognitive distortions that make them think that the way that they treat you is okay, and they may blame you for the abuse too, because they want to point the finger at someone else, and they can't take the accountability for themselves and their own actions, and they actually don't even see that. They don't see that. So I guess, I just wanted to talk today about the fact that these people think differently, and you're never going to make sense out of it. So don't try to make sense out of it. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. And a lot of times we waste a lot of days and weeks and months trying to make sense out of things that are not going to make sense, and where we have to maybe just get to a place of acceptance